Ray, you talked about when you're setting your day, you get phone calls, and I presume politicians will ring you or their chief of staff or something like that, or you might be ringing them.
Yeah.
Who's been the toughest politician you've ever had to deal with? I mean, in terms of punish.
Malcolm Turnbull.
Yeah.
He rang me one day and gave me a spray.
Over the phone.
Over the phone.
Not on air, though.
No. He gave me a spray about something I said. But I think most people had kowtowed to Malcolm. So given that I was a Western Suburbs boy, I replied in kind. I think Malcolm heard words he'd never heard before, along the lines of stick your head up your ass and use yourself as a fucking jug handle.
And how'd he take it?
Not too well. Yeah. You can't speak to me like that. I said, well, don't ring me abusing me. Who do you think you are? I'm no better than you. You're no better than me. And we went at it hammer and tong for quite a while. And I might have got him to swear at me, actually. He may have lost his cool with me. But, I mean, I don't like him. He doesn't like me. I think he was a dreadful Prime Minister, and I don't think he's much of a person either.
And the 2GB or the group tends to be more definitely not left.
No, we're conservative.
Conservative.
I'm a conservative commentator.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And of course, Malcolm was a leader of the Liberals at the time.
But he was masquerading as a Liberal. He's a Labor person
because he's turned since then.
Well, no, I think he was always left of right. Left of centre.
Left of centre in the Liberals, yeah.
In the Liberals, and he's a person that was elevated to the Prime Ministership. I think beyond his station in life. And you had a really good bloke like Brendan Nelson, who was then the leader before him, who got, you wouldn't say knifed, but you could say knifed.
Could say shafted.
Shifted sideways. And Nelson's a really good fella, a good, decent man, and would have been a good Prime Minister had he been given the chance.
Did you deal with Scott Morrison?
Yeah, I got on well with him. We had a couple of blues over time, but he's a decent human being, Scott. But
where did he go wrong in the end?
I think the holiday in Honolulu did him in.
Yeah.
I'm not holding a hose. I think he did a great job through COVID. I really do. I think
under the circumstances, yes.
Yeah, no one had ever been there. We had a Spanish flu back in 100 years ago, but nothing in the middle of all of that.
And it's always easy to look back and say, "Well, I've done a better job."
They should have done. But he made some pretty tough decisions, and we're an island nation. People had to remember that. We weren't part of Europe or the United States of America, and he had to stop the spread of it.
And he might as well take advantage of the fact we are an island nation. Just close the joint down.
Yeah. But I think he did his best in very difficult circumstances, Scott Morrison.
What about Albo?
Well, I've known Albo for about 35 years, and I've got to admit that when he was elevated to the leadership, I thought, well, he's a knockabout sort of bloke. He's a Rabbitohs man, and, he's from the left of the Labor Party, but, I really was encouraged by him. I thought, he might have a crack, this bloke. But I now can conclude by saying I think he's the worst Prime Minister I've seen in my time in broadcasting.
I've heard you say it on radio.
Yeah, I think he's just not up to the task. I don't think intellectually he's up to the task. I don't think that he's smart enough. Even going to the election, I started to have my doubts when he stuffed up interest rates. I'm a knockabout.
When they asked him what's the official interest rate, he didn't know.
He had no idea. And you can't be the leader of the nation and not know those. Even if you're not well versed in finances, you are. I'm not. But I'd still, if I was being the leader, I'd make sure that I'd be saying to people, I need all these facts and figures in front of me.
It's pretty basic.
Yeah, I need to know all this stuff.
Yeah, and
even if I'm not enamoured by it, it's not one of my goes. I need you to be here telling me about it.
Yeah. Who do you think is our greatest Prime Minister then, in your time?
Oh, Howard.
Why?
A really steady hand.
Smart.
The gun buyback.
Yep, after Port Arthur.
It wasn't very popular at the time. You reflect back, but a brave decision and a right decision, as it turns out, a very right decision. And there's a sense of decency, and he was never panicked or flustered, and as opposed to Albanese, who doesn't know his ass from his elbow. Howard was always on top of everything. He was always well briefed, and he was made fun of, and people made fun of him over quirks and different things he did. But I think that he was a wonderful Prime Minister at a very difficult time.
Yeah, and I think also, I think Albo's a great politician, and what I mean by that is, as a diplomat. Like, he'd be a great diplomat. I don't think he's been a great leader in a leadership sense.
Yeah,
I don't get that sense.
I quite like the bloke.
So do I.
I quite like him, and you know.
But leadership's not his go.
And so I'd like to repair our relationship when he's not Prime Minister.
Yeah.
When he's not in such an important job, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, he was Transport Minister at one stage, and I don't think he was a very good Transport Minister. I just think that, you know, I think Bill Shorten would have been a pretty good Prime Minister. I really do. The way he's handled the NDIS has been very good, and I've had a lot to do with him over the NDIS because there's a lot of frailties attached to it, and it's very important that we look after people who are less fortunate than most of us. But I mean, he was given a shit sandwich really when they said, "Here, look after this."
And the thing with Bill, he will aim up. He'll turn up.
Oh yeah, no,
Bill will turn up. Like if you call him, I've heard you.
Oh mate, I've had conversations.
I've heard you give him curry over the.
I've been in the middle of nowhere. I remember I was driving from Mudgee to the Gold Coast, probably earlier this year or late last year, maybe earlier this year. I'd broadcast in Mudgee at the racetrack for the country championships, and I was making my way up to the Gold Coast for some other reason. And I was in the middle of nowhere, and he rang about a really difficult situation with the NDIS with someone who had special needs. And I told him the story and said, "You've got to help me with this person because this is dreadful. You know, you've got all the Rauders stealing money from us, and you've got this really, really poor person that needs some help." And he was really invested in it, and he solved the problem for this poor person. I mean, you know, I'm happy for him. He's getting out of politics and going to be the Vice Chancellor of the ANU or wherever he's heading. But I mean, I think he's a good person.